Okay, well, Gibson contacted me when I showed them some pictures, and they said it's quite an unusual guitar because in 1960, especially late 1960, all the guitars they made were quite plain looking, or most of them at least, and they were mostly bright cherry sunbursts, so very red, because they changed halfway through 1960. They changed the aniline dye, which is a more subtle red, to what they call tomato soup, which is actually very bright red, which didn't fade and doesn't fade. So from that perspective, the guitar was very different, because it's not very plain. As you can see, it has a very nice pinstripe flame, and of course it's a dark burst. And because of the red in the guitar being this tomato soup, it didn't fade, so it didn't turn into a tobacco burst, which some of them from 58 or 59 did do. So it stayed very much the same as it was when it was produced. Of course, it became darker and more aged as it was played. But the nice thing about this guitar is that it was always played. So that's the short version of how Gibson got involved. Well, when I first heard that this guitar would be eligible to be a collector's choice, I was really amazed, and I was really surprised, because I thought, of course it's rare, but there are more 1960 Les Pauls. But of course, being a dark burst, being very flamey, and of course being one of the very last ones, it has a very high serial number. So I've been checking on the web and in books, and I think it's the third from last known guitar that is still in existence. So of course then I thought, this is a dream come true. I've been looking at guitars since I was 12, 13 years old, and standing in front of shop windows and dreaming and hoping that one day I would own a Gibson, and let alone thinking about having a Gibson, a replica made by Gibson for me, or it's quite surreal. I think we started communicating with Edwin Wilson, whom I knew from some time ago when I met him at NAMM, and we got involved, me being a Gibson dealer and a Gibson aficionado, of course. So we knew each other, and then he said, well, I want to see the guitar. So we set up a very nice sort of Gibson event in April of last year, 2013. And he especially flew over for that occasion with Tom, of course, head of custom shop, or at least of production, and Tom Fowl. And I knew him from his visits to my shop when he came over to Holland. And they were both very enthusiastic, and they said, well, this is a very nice guitar, it's very lightweight, it plays very well. And so this is how it got to be. The steps from the initial plan, of course, to the actual prototype, which is actually right behind me, is very simple. So in April they came over. Of course, we talked first, and then in April they came over. And Edwin Wilson, it was funny because we had a dinner just before the event. I mean, the night before the event, and he just came in jet lagged and everything. And he said, "Where's the guitar?" And I gave him the guitar, and we finished dinner, and he started measuring right away in his hotel room, and I think he went on to deep into the night, and the following morning he woke up early and went on. So it's like a very intricate process of using lasers for measuring, using all sorts of devices, and of course making hundreds of pictures of every detail there is actually to know about this guitar. So there's a lot of work for him involved, while we were partying downstairs and showing all the people all the guitars that we have in stock with Max Guitar, of course. He was just working, and Edwin is a guy who's really not about show. He's all work. So he doesn't really care for all this show stuff and trade shows. He just works in his hotel room. So he's one of the more serious guys at Gibson. Okay, well, that took quite a long time, because we had to sign the contracts, of course. We did that. So April, and then they started making a prototype, I think in December of the same year, and then of course ending up with this prototype in early March, and then it came to the Frankfurt show where we met up and we compared the guitars. We have some pictures that we can show you about that, and I was amazed that it was such a good guitar because I was afraid that it would be similar but not actually in the same league.
Mm-hmm. What was your first reaction to the first pictures you saw of the prototype?
Oh yeah, I saw. I remember that I think in February or something. He sent me over an iPhone picture of guitar under, factory lighting, and I thought, my God, this is going to be horrible because it looked very plain and greenish because of the lighting. But I just I know Edwin and I know what he does, and I was just hoping for the best. And when I saw the guitar at Frankfurt, it was like wow. We were trying it out, and of course this is the original, this is the guitar, and we were changing the guitar over. So I was playing this and then the other one, and Edwin was doing the same. And it was after a while you have to check, and I always check the pickups because these pickups are a little bit more aged than the prototype ones. It was hard to distinguish the guitars from each other. The feel. Of course you can see the differences, it's a little bit more aged even than the prototype, but I think they did an amazing job. Yeah, it's surreal. Of course, it's a silly surrounding. It's just like a hotel room, so it's not like your living room or anything. But of course you can see the differences. So I noticed that, but some of the things are really hard to duplicate. But yeah, I was amazed, and it's just like a dream come true to seeing that guitar and being there and being part of the whole Gibson history. For me is an honor, really. Mm-hmm. Yes, of course. The original has a unique deepness, I would say, to the sound. Mm-hmm. And if you play it, it just wants to play itself. So it has a very thin neck, but it has a lot of sustain, and it just vibrates right out of your hand if you play it. So it just wants to sound good, even though you play like very averagely like I do. It's a guitar that just wants to sound good. If you have a good vintage style amp like a Vox AC15 or an old Fender or a Marshall, it just instantly the same sound as you heard on all these records back in the 60s, 70s, and everything. So it's woman tone, what Clapton always says. Especially the neck pickup is like very rich. The difference between the new guitar is, because I was thinking they can never duplicate that sort of feel, but the feel was exactly the same. So it feels like the old guitar. It has the same sustain as the old guitar. The only thing is that, but that is very plausible difference. The new guitar is a little bit more open, and the old guitar has a little bit more deepness to it, which is real age, which you actually cannot duplicate. But there is this thing that every guitar, if you have really, really good guitars, like 10 from the same tree, let's say, they will sound different, because the character of that particular piece of wood will define what the guitar sounds like. So more deep, open, round, chunky, crispy, whatever you want to name it. That is very important for a guitar, and the best comparison, or analog, let's say, comparison that you can make is that if you have 10 sons of the same mother, they're going to be very similar, but they're still going to be a little bit different. It sounds silly maybe to some, but this is really the best comparison that I can make. Mm-hmm. Well, I'm not so much worried, because I don't play so much outside. I mean, I just recently started playing again in a small band. I would never take this guitar because not so much that it gets stolen, but more that you drop it or you break the neck, or it's a thin neck. It could break, and that would be horrible. So I play the other one, and as I said, it's a little different, but it's the same league, it's the same quality, and so I would just play that. And for comfort, I'm used to fatter necks, because I have a lot of guitars with fat necks, like 50s style necks. So at first I was actually a little bit sorry that I got a 1960, not a 1959, but now I'm really used to it, and it feels really good. So it's more like what you would expect from a Fender to feel like, in thickness, that is. So that is the comparison.